Lovegood. Harry had a troubled night's sleep. His parents walked in and out of his dreams, never speaking. Mrs. Weasley sobbed over Peter's dead body, one by Ron and Hermione, who were wearing crowns. And yet again, Harry found himself walking down a corridor ending in a locked door. He woke abruptly and his car twinkling to find Ron already dressed and talking to him. Better hurry up, Mom's going balsy. She says we are going to miss the train. There was a lot of commotion in the house. From what he heard as he dressed at top speed, Harry gathered and that Fred and George had bewitched their trunks to fly downstairs to save the bother of carrying them. The result of what they had hurtled straight into Ginny and knocked her down 2 flights of stairs into the hall. Mrs. Black and Mrs. Weasley were both screaming at the top of their voices. You have done her a serious injury, you idiot. Little half-breed besmirching the house of the father. Hermione came hurrying into the room looking flustered just as Harry was putting on his trainers. Hedwig was swinging on her shoulder and she was carrying a squirming Crookshank in her arms. Mom and Dad just sent Hedwig back. The owl fluttered obliquely over and perched on the top of her cage. Are you ready, Ed? Nearly. Ginny all right? Harry asked, shoving on his glasses. Mrs. Weasley patched her up, said Hermione, but now Mad Eye is complaining that we can't leave unless Sturgis Podmore's here. Otherwise, the guard will be one shot. Guard, said Harry, we have to go to King's Cross with guard. You have to King's Cross with the guard, Hermione corrected him. Why? Said Harry irritably. I thought Voldemort was supposed to be lying low. Or are you telling me he's going to jump out from behind a dustbin to try and do me in? I don't know, it's just what Mad Eye said Harmony distractedly looking at her watch, but if we don't leave soon, we are definitely going to miss the train. Will you not get down here now, please? Mrs. Weasley bellowed, and Hermione jumped as though scared and hurried out of the room. Harry sees Hedwig shoved her unceremoniously into her cage and set off downstairs after Hermione dragging her trunk. Mrs. Black's portrait was howling with rage, but nobody was bothering to close the curtain over her. All the noise in the hall was bounding to rouse her again anyway. Harry, you are to come with me, and Tom, shouted Mrs. Weasley over the repeated screech of mudblots. Come, creatures of dirt. Leave your trunk and your owl are just going to deal with the luggage. Oh, for heaven's sake, Cyrus, Dumbledore said no. A bear-like black dog had appeared at Harry's side as Harry clambered over the various trunks, clutched the hall to get Mrs. Weasley. Oh, honestly, said Miss Weasley despairingly, well, on your own head be it. She wrenched open the front door and stepped out into a weak September sunlight. Harry and the dog followed her. The door slammed behind them, and Mrs. Black's screech were cut off instantly. Where is Tonk? He said, looking around as they went down the stone step of number 12, which vanished the moment they reached the pavement. She's waiting for us just up here, said Mrs. Weasley chiefly, averting her eyes from the loping black dog beside Harry. An old woman greeted them on the corner. She had tightly curled grey hair and wore a purple hat shaped like a porky. Sir, Harry, she said, winking. Better hurry up, hadn't we, Molly? She added, checking her watch. I know, moaned Mrs. Weasley, leathering her stride. Glad I wanted to wait for Sturgis. If only Arthur could have wore us cards from the ministry again, but Fudge wouldn't let him borrow so much as an empty ink bottle these days. How Muggle can stand traveling without magic? The great black dog gave a joyful bark and gobbled round them, snipping a pigeon and chasing its own tail. Harry couldn't help laughing. Cyrus had been trapped inside for a very long time. Mrs. Weasley pursued her leap in an almost unputanious way. Came 20 minutes to reach King's Cross by foot, and nothing more eventfully happened during the time than Cyrus scaring a people of cats for Harry's entertainment. Once inside the station, they lingered casually beside the barrier between platform 9 and 10 till the coast was clear. Then each of them leaned against it, turned and fell easily through onto platform 9 and three-quarter, where the Hogwarts Express stood blanching sooty steam over a platform packed with departing students and their families. Harry inhaled the familiar smell and felt his spirit soar. He was really going back. I hope Father make it in time, said Mrs. Weasley anxiously, staring behind her at a wrought iron arch spanning the platform through which new arrival would come. Nice dog, Harry, called a tall boy with a dreadlock. Thanks, Lee, said Harry, grinning as Cyrus wagged his tail frantically. Oh, good, said Mrs. Weasley, sounding relieved. Here is Alstor with the luggage. Look, a porter's cap pulled low over the mismatched eye. Moody came limping through the archway, pushing a cart full of their trunks. All okay, he muttered to Mrs. Weasley and Tonk. Don't think we were followed. Second later, Mr. Weasley emerged onto the platform with Ron and Hermione. They had almost unloaded Moody's luggage cart when Fred and George and Ginny turned up with Lupin. No trouble, growled Moody. Nothing, said Lupin. I'll still be reporting Sturgis to Dumbledore, said Moody. That's the second time he's not turned up in a week, getting an unreliable as Muddings. Well, look after yourself, said Lupin, shaking hand all around. He reached Harry last and gave him a clap on the shoulder. You too, Harry, be careful. Yeah, keep your head down and your eyes peeled, said Moody, shaking Harry's hand too. And don't forget, all of you, careful what you put in writing if in doubt. Don't put in a letter at all. It's been great meeting all of you, said Tom, hugging Hermione and Ginny. We'll see you soon, I expect. The warning whistle sounded. The students still on platform started hurrying onto the train. Quick, quick, said Mrs. Weasley distractedly, hugging them at random and catching Harry twice. Right, be good. If you have forgotten anything, we'll send it onto the train now. Hurry. For one brief moment, the great black dog reared onto its hind leg and placed its front paw on Harry's shoulder, but Mrs. Weasley showed Harry the way toward the train door, hissing, for heaven's sake, act more like a dog, Cyrus. See you, Harry called out of the open window as train began to move. While Ron, Hermione, and Ginny were beside him, the fingers of Tom, Lupin, Moody, and Mr. and Mrs. Weasley sank rapidly, but the black dog was bounding alongside the window, wagging its tail. Blood people on the platform were laughing to see it chasing the train, and then they turned the corner and Cyrus was gone. He shouldn't have come with us, said Hermione in a worried voice. Oh, listen up, said Ron. He hasn't seen daylight for a month, poor block. Well, said Fred, clapping his hands together, can't stand around chatting all day. We have got business to discuss with Lee. See you later, and he had George disappear down the corridor to the right. The train was gathering still more speedy, so that the house outside the window flashed past and then swayed where they stood. Shall we go and find a compartment then? Harry asked Ron and Hermione. Ron and Hermione exchanged look. Said Ron. We are well. Ron, I are supposed to go into the perfect carriage, Hermione said awkwardly. Ron wasn't looking at Harry. He seemed to have become intensely interested in fingernails on his left hand. Oh, said Harry, right fine. I don't think we'll have to say they're all journey. said Hermione quickly. Our letter said we are just get instruction from the head boy and girl and then patrol the corridor from time to time. Fine, said Harry again. Well, I might see you later then. Yeah, definitely, said Ron, casting a shifty, anxious look at Harry. It's a pain having to go down there. I had rather, but we have to. I mean, I'm not enjoying it. I'm not Percy. He finished definitely. I know you are not, said Harry, and he grinned. But as Hermione and Ron dragged their trunks, Crookshank and a cage Pidwigan off toward the engine end of the train, Harry felt an odd sense of loss. He had never travelled on the Hogwarts Express without Ron. Come on, Ginny, told him. If we get a move on, we'll be able to save the places. Right, said Harry, picking up Hedwig's cage in one hand and the handle of the trunk in other. They struggled off down the corridor, peering through the glass panel door into the compartment they passed, which were already full. Harry could not help noticing that a lot of people stared back at him with a great interest and that several of them knocked their neighbors and pointed him out after he had made his behavior in 5 consecutive carriage. He remembered that the Daily Prophet had been telling its reader all summer what a lying show-off he was. He wondered bleakly whether the people now staring and whispering believed the stories. In the very last carriage they met Neville Longbottom, Harry's fellow 50-year Gryffindors, his round face shining with the effort of pulling his trunk along and maintaining a one-handed grip on his struggling toe. Trevor. Hi, Harry. He panted. Hi, Ginny. Everyone's full. I can't find a seat. What are you talking about? Said Ginny, who had squeezed past Neville to peer into the compartment behind him. There is room in this one. There is only loony Lovegood in here. Neville mumbled something about not wanting to disturb anyone. Don't be silly, said Ginny, laughing. She'll all right. She slid the door open and pulled her trunk inside it. Harry and Neville followed. Hi, Luna, said Ginny. Is it okay if we take these seats? This girl beside the window looked up. She had straggled, waist-length, dirty blonde hair, very pale eyebrows, and broad-burnt eyes that gave her permanent surprised look. Harry knew at once why Neville had chosen to pass this compartment by. The girl gave off an aura of distinct dirtiness. Perhaps it was the fact that she had stuck her wand behind her left ear and safekeeping, or had chosen to wear a necklace or butterbeer caps, or that she was reading a magazine upside down. Her eyes ranged over Neville and come to rest on Harry. She nodded. Thanks, said Ginny, smiling at her. Harry and Neville stored the three trunks and Hedwig's in cage in the luggage rack and sat down. The girl called Luna watched them over her upside-down magazine, which called The Quibbler. Did not seem to need to blink as much as normal humans. She stared and stared at Harry, who had taken the seat opposite her and now wished her had not. Had a good summer, Luna? Ginny asked. Yes, said Luna dreamily, without taking her eyes off Harry. Yes, it was quite enjoyable. You know, you're Harry Potter, she nodded. I know I am, said Harry. Neville chuckled. Luna turned her pale eye upon him instead. And I don't know who you are. I'm nobody, said Neville hurriedly. No, you are not, said Ginny sharply. Neville Longbottom. Luna Lovegood. Luna's in my ear, but in Ravenclaw's, with beyond measure, is Mill's greatest treasure, said Luna in a sing-song voice. She raised her upside-down magazine high enough to hide her face and fell silent. Harry and Neville looked at each other with their eyebrows raised. Ginny's surprise a giggle. The train rattled onward, spreading them out into open country. It was an odd, unsettled sort of day. The moment the carriage was full of sunlight, and the next They were passing beneath ominously grey cloud. Guess what I got for my birthday, said Neville. Another rememberer, said Harry, remembering the like device Neville's godmother had sent him in an effort to improve his absent memory. I could do with one, though I lost the old one ages ago. No, look at this. He dug the hand that was not keeping a firm grip on Trevor into his school bag and after a little bit of rummaging pulled out what appeared to be a small grey cactus in a pot, expecting that it was covered with what looked like boil rather than spines. Nimbleless, Mimbletonia, he said proudly. Harry stared at the thing. It was presenting slightly, give it the rather sinister look of some diseased internal organ. It's really, really rare, said Neville, beaming. I don't know if there is one in the greenhouse at Hogwarts. Even I can't wait to show it to Professor Sprout. My great uncle Algie bought it for me in Azaria. I'm going to see if I can breed from it. Harry knew what Neville's favorite subject was herbology, but for the life of him, he could not see what he would want with his stunned little plant. That's it. Do nothing, he asked. Lots of stuff. Neville proudly. It's got an amazing defensive mechanism. Old Seven for me. He dumped the toad into Harry's lap and took a quill and his school bag. Luna Lovegood's popping eyes appeared over the of her upstairs down magazine again, watching that Neville was doing. Neville held the Mimbletonia up to his eyes, his tongue between his teeth, chose his spot, and gave a plant a sharp prod with the tip of his quill. Liquid squirrel from every boil on the plant, things stinking dark green jet of it. They hit the ceiling, the window, and spattered Luna Lovegood's magazine. Ginny, who had flung her arms up in front of her face just in time, merely looked as though she was wearing a slimy green hat. But Harry, whose hand had been busy preventing the escape of Trevor, received a full fare. It smelled like rancid manure. Neville, whose face and torso were also drenched, shook his head. Tears burst out of his eyes. So sorry, he gasped. I haven't tried that before. Didn't realize it would be quite so. Don't worry, though. Stink cap's not poisonous, he added nervously as Harry spat a mouthful onto the floor. At that precise moment, the door of their compartment slid open. Oh, hello, Harry, said a nervous voice. That time, Harry wiped the lens of his glasses with his paper-free hand. A very pretty girl with long, shiny black hair was standing in a doorway, smiled to him. Cha Chang, the seeker of the Ravenclaws, twitched him. Oh, hi, said Harry blankly. Said Cho. Well, just thought I had say hello. I then, say close she the door again. Another pink in her the face and departed. Harry slumped back in his seat and growled. He would have liked Cho to discover him sitting with a group of very cool people laughing their head off at a joke he had just told. He would not have chosen to be sitting with Neville and Looney Lovegood, clutching a toad and dripping its stink caps. Never mind, said Ginny brassingly. Look, can get rid of all. She pulled out her wand. Scorgiffy, the stink's cap vanished. Sorry, said Neville again, in a small voice. Ron and Hermione did not turn up for nearly an hour. By the time the full trolley had already gone by, Harry, Ginny, and Neville had finished their pumpkin pasties and were busy sweeping chocolate frog cart when the compartment door slid open and they walked in, accompanied by Crookshank and Shrilly Hooty Midwigan in the carriage. I'm starving, said Ron, stoving Pidwigan next to Hedwig, grabbing a chocolate frog from Harry and throwing himself into the seat next to him. He ripped open the wrapper, bit off the frog's head, and leaned back with eyes closed as though he had had a very exhausted morning. Well, there are 250 prefect from each house, said Hermione, looking thoroughly disgruntled as she looked her seat. Boy and girl from each, and guess who is Slytherin's prophet, said Ron, still with his eyes closed. Malfoy, replied Harry at once, his worst fear confirmed. Horse, said Ron bitterly, stuffing the rest and the frog into his mouth and taking another. And that complete cow Pansy Parkinson, said Hermione viciously. How she got to be a perfect when she is thicker than a conserved Rosa Hubbard. Please ask Annie Macmillan and Han about, said Ron thickly, and Ottilie Goldstein and Padma Patil for Ravenclaws, said Hermione. You went to the Yule Ball with Padma Patil, said a vagabond everyone to look at Luna Lovegood, who was gazing unblinkingly at Ron over the top of the quivers. He swallowed his mouthful of frog. Yeah, I know I did, he said, looking mildly surprised. She didn't enjoy it very much, Luna informed him. She doesn't think you treated her very well, because you wouldn't dance with her. I don't think I had have minded, she added thoughtfully. I don't think like dancing very much. She retreated behind the quiver again. Ron stared at the cover with his mouth hanging open for a few seconds, then looked around at Ginny for some kind of explanation, but Ginny had suffered her knuckle in her mouth to stop herself giggling. Ron shook his head, bemused, then checked his watch. We are supposed to patrol the corridor every so often, but he told Harry and Neville we can give out punishment if people are misbehaving. I can't wait to get Crab and Goyle for something. You're not supposed to abuse your position, Ron, said Hermione sharply. Yeah, right, because Malfoy won't abuse it at all, said Ron sarcastically. So you are going to descend to his level? No, I'm just going to make sure I get his mate before he gets mine. For heaven's sake, Ron, I'll make Goyle do lying. It will kill him. He hates writing, said Ron happily. He lowered his voice to Goyle's low grunt and screwing up his face in a look of pained concentration mimed writing in midair. I must not look like a Bourbon's backslide. Everyone laughed, but nobody laughed harder than Luna Lovegood. She let out a scream of mirth that caused Hedwig to wake up and flap her wings indigently, and Crookshank to leap up into luggage rank. She laughed so hard that her magazine slipped out of her grasp, slid down her leg and onto the floor. That was funny. Her prominent eyes swam with tears as she gasped for breath, staring at Ron, utterly nonplussing. He looked around at the others who were now laughing at the expression of Ron's face and at the ludicrous pronoun laugh of Luna Lovegood, who was rocking backward and forward, clutching her side. Are you taking this, Mickey? Said Ron, throwing her baboon's backside. She clapped, holding her ribs. Everyone else was watching Luna, laughing, but Harry, glancing at a magazine on the floor, noticing something that made him dive for it. Upside down, it had been hard to tell what the picture on the front was, but Harry now realized it was a fairly bad cartoon of Cornelius Fudge. Harry only recognized him because of the lime green ball hat. Of Fudge's hand was cleaned around the bag of golden, and the other was strolling a goblin. The cartoon was captioned, How far will Fudge to go to gain Grignots? Beneath his were listed two titles of other article inside the magazine. Corruption in the Quidditch League. How The tornadoes are taking control. Secret of the ancient runs revealed. Cyrus Black, villain or victim? Can I have a look of this? Harry asked Luna eagerly. She nodded, still gazing at Ron breathlessly with laughter. He opened the magazine and scanned the index. Still, this moment had completely forgotten the magazine Kingsley had handed Mr. Weasley to Cyrus. It must have been the edition of the Quibbler. He found the page and turned excitedly to the article. This too was illustrated by the rather bad cartoon. In fact, Harry would not have known it was supposed to be Cyrus if it hadn't been captioned. Cyrus was standing on a pile of a human bone with his wand out, the headline and the article read Cyrus Black as he is painted, notorious mass murder or innocent singing sensation. Harry had to read this sentence several times before he was convinced that he had not misunderstood it. Since when had Cyrus been singing sensation? For 14 years, Cyrus Black has been believed guilty of a mass murder of 12 innocent muggles and one wizard. Black's audacious escape from Azkaban 2 years ago has led to the widest manhunt ever conducted by the Ministry of Magic. None of us had ever questioned that he deserved to be captured and handed back to the Dementors. But does he? Startling new evidence and has recently come to the light that Cyrus Black may not have committed the crime for which he was sent to Azkaban. In fact, says Doris Perkis of 18 Acanthia Way, Little Northern Black may not have been present at the killing. What people don't realize is that Cyrus Black is a false name, said Mrs. Perkins. The man people believe to be Cyrus Black is actually Stubby Boardman, lead singer of the popular singing group The Hobgoblin, who retired from public life after being stuck in the air by tripping at concert in Little Northern Crutch Hall near 15 years ago. I recognized him the moment I saw his picture in the paper. Now, Stubby couldn't possibly have committed those crimes because on the day in the question he happened to be enjoying a romantic candlelight dinner with me. I have written to the Ministry of Magic and I am expecting him to give Stubby alias Cyrus a full pardon and they now. Harry finished reading and started at the page in disbelief. Perhaps it was a joke. He thought perhaps the magazine often printed spoofed item. He flicked back a few pages and found the piece of fudge. Cornelius first, the Ministry of Magic denied that he had any plans to take over the running of Wizardian Bank Kicknots. When he was elected Minister of Magic 5 years ago, Fudge was always insisted that he wanted nothing more than to cooperate peacefully with the guardian of our gold. But does he? Sources close to the ministry have recently disclosed that Fudge's dearest ambition is to seize control of the goblin gold supplies and that he will not hesitate to use force if need be. It wouldn't be at first time either, said a ministry inside. Cornelius Goblin Crusher Fudge, that's what his friend called him. If you could hear him. Harry did not read any further. Fudge might have many faults, but Harry found it extremely hard to imagine him ordering Goblin to be cooked in pie. He flipped through the rest of the magazine, pausing every few pages. He read an accusation that the Turnstile Tornado were winning the Quidditch League by a combination of blackmail, illegal broom tampering, and torture. An interview with a wizard who claimed to have flown to the moon of Chipsweep 6 and brought back a bag of a moon rock to prove it, and an article on ancient runs which at least explained why Luna had been reading the quiver upside down according to magazine. If you turn the moon run on the head, they reveal a spell to make your enemy's ear turn into kumquats. In fact, compared to the rest of the article in the Quibbler, The suggestion that Cyrus might really be the lead singer of the Hobgoblin was quite sensible. Anything good in there? Asked Ron as Harry closed the magazine. Of course not, said Hermione scattling before Harry could answer. The Quibbler rubbish, everyone knows that. Excuse me, said Luna. Her voice had suddenly lost his dreamy quality. My father's the editor. Said Hermione, looking embarrassed. Well, it's good, some interesting. It's quite. I'll have to back. Thank you, said Luna coldly. And leaning forward, she matched it out of Harry's hand, riffling through it. Page 57, she turned in rustily upside down again and disappeared behind it. Just as the compartment door opened for the third time, Harry looked around. He had expected his, but that did not make his sight of Draco Malfoy springing at him from between the cronies grab and goal and more enjoyable. What? He said aggressively before Malfoy could open his mouth. Manners, Potter, or I'll have to give you a detention, drawled Malfoy, whose sleek blonde hair and pointed chin were just like his father. You see, I, unlike you, have been made a perfect, which means that I, unlike you, have the power to hand out punishment. Yes, said Harry, but you think, unlike me, are a git, so get out and leave us alone. Ron, Hermione, Ginny, and Neville laughed. Malfoy leaped tall. Tell me, how does it feel being second best to the Weasley Potter? He asked. Shut up, Malfoy, said Hermione sharply. I seem to have touched a nerve, said Malfoy, shrinking. Well, just watch yourself, Potter, because I'll be dogging your footstep in case you step out of line. Get out, said Hermione, standing up. Sniggering, Malfoy gave Harry a last malicious look and departed. Crab and Goyle lumbering in his wake, Hermione slammed the compartment door behind them and turned to look at Harry, who knew at once that she, like him, had registered what Malfoy had said and been just as unnerved by it. Chuck us another frog, said Ron, who had clearly noticed nothing. Harry could not talk freely in front of Neville and Luna. He exchanged another nervous look with Hermione and then stared out of the window. He had sought Cyrus coming with him to the station was a bit of laugh, but suddenly it seemed reckless, if not downright dangerous. Hermione had been right. Cyrus should not leave calm. What if Mr. Malfoy had noticed the black dog and told Draco? What if he had deduced what Weasley, Lupin, Tonk, and Moody knew where Cyrus was hiding? Or had Malfoy's use of wrong dogging been a coincidence? The weather remained undecided as they traveled farther and farther north. Rain spattered the window in the half-heather way. Then the sun put in the feeble appearance before the cloud drifting over it once more. The dark fell, and lamp came on inside and carriage. Luna rolled up the quiver, put it carefully away in her bag, and took to staring at everyone in the compartment instead. Harry was sitting with his forehead pressing against the train window, trying to get a first distance glimpse of Hogwarts. But it was a moonless night, and then train's steady window was grim. "We had better change," said Hermione at last. She and Ron pinned their perfect badge carefully to their chest. Harry saw Ron checking how it looked in the back window. As the train began to slow down and they heard the usual rack up and down it as everyone scrambled to get their luggage and pets assembled, ready for departure, Ron and Hermione were supposed to surprise all this. They disappeared from the carriage again, leaving Harry and the other to look at the Crookshank and Pidigan. "I'll carry the owl if you like," said Luna to Harry, reaching out for Pittwagon as Neville stowed Trevor carefully in an inside pocket. Oh, yeah, thanks, said Harry, handling her the cage and hoisting Hedwig more securely into his arm. They snuffed out of the compartment, feeling the first sting of the night air on their face as they joined the crowd in the corridor. Slowly they moved toward the doors. Harry could smell the pine tree that lined the path down to the lake. He stepped down onto the platform and looked around, listening for a familiar call of first year over here. First year, but it did not come. Instead, a quite different voice, a brisk female one, was calling, "First year, line up over here, please," or "First year to me." A lantern came swinging toward Harry, and by its light he saw the prominent chin and severe haircut of Professor Lovely Plank, the witch who had taken over Hagrid's care of magical creature lesson for a while the previous year. "Where is Hagrid?" he said out loud. "I don't know," said Ginny, "but we had better get out of the way. We are blocking the door." "Oh, yeah," Harry said. Ginny became separate as they moved off along the platform and out the station. Jostling by the crowd, Harry squinted through the darkness for a glimpse of Hagrid. He had to be here. Harry had been relying on it, saying Hagrid had been one of things to which he had been looking forward most, but there was no sign of him at all. He can't have left, Harry told himself as he suffered slowly. He looked around for Ron or Hermione, wanting to know what they thought about the reappearing of Professor Grubbly Hank, but neither of them was anywhere near him, so he allowed himself to be stunned forward onto the dark rain-washed road outside Hogsmeade Station. There stood their hunted or so horseless coach that always looked the student above first year up to the castle. Harry glanced quickly at them, turned away to keep a lookout for Ron and Hermione, then did a double take. The coach were no longer horseless. There were creatures standing between the carriage shifted. If he had to give them a name, he supposed to would have called them horses, though there was something reptilian about them too. They were completely fleshless, their black coats clinging to their skeletons, of which every bone was visible. Their heads were dragon's eyes, and their pupilless eyes, whiting and starting wings sprouted from each wither, was black leathery winging that looked as though they had out to belong to giant state birds. Standing still and quiet in the gloom, the creatures looked airy and sinister. Harry could not understand why the crowds were being pulled by these horrible horses when they were quick capable, moving along by themselves. "There is Pigs," said Ron's voice, right behind Harry. "That Luna girl was carrying him," said Harry, turning quickly, eager to consult Ron about Hagrid. "Where do you reckon the Hagrid is?" "I don't know," said Ron, sounding worried. "He had better okay." A short distance away, Raccoon Malfoy, followed by a small gang of cronies including Brad, Goyle, and Pansy Patterson, was pushing something timid-looking second year out of the way so that they could get a couch to themselves. Second later, Hermione emerged panting from the crowd. Malfoy was being absolute fool to first year back there. "I swear I'm going to report him. He's only had his badge 3 minutes and he's using it to bully people worse than ever." "Where is Crookshank?" "Ginny got him," said Harry. "Where is she?" "Is Ginny had just emerged from the crowd, clutching the swearing Crookshank." "Thanks," said Hermione, revealing Ginny at the cat. "Come on, let's go carriage together before they all fill up." "I haven't got Brigade, Ron said Hermione was already heading off toward the nearest unoccupied coach. Harry remained behind with Ron. What are those things, do you reckon? He asked Ron, nodding at a horrible horse as the other students surged past them. First thing, those horses. Luna appeared holding Pigwidgeon's cage in her arm. The tiny owl was twittering excitedly as usual. There you are, she said. He is a sweet little owl, isn't he? Oh, yeah, he's all right, said Ron, guffing. Welcome. On then, let's get in. Were you saying, Harry? I was saying, what are those horse things? Harry said as he, Ron, and Luna made for the carriage in which Hermione and Ginny were already sitting. The horse thing pulling the carriage, said Harry impatiently. They were, after all, about 3 feet from the nearest one. It was watching them with empty white eyes. Ron, however, gave Harry a perplexed look. What are you talking about? Talking about look. Harry grabbed Ron's arm and wheeled him with so that he was face to face with the winged horse. Ron stared straight as for a second, then looked back at Harry. What I am supposed to be looking at the between the shaft, harness, the crouch. It's right there in front, but as Ron continued to look bemused, a strange thought occurred to Harry. Can't you see them? See what? Can't you see what pulling the carriage? Ron looked seriously alarmed now. Are you feeling all right, Harry? Yeah. Harry felt utter bewildered. The horse was there in front of him, gleaming solidly in the dim light issuing from the station window. Behind them, vapouring rise from its nostrils in the chilly night air. Yet, unless Ron was speaking, and it was a very feeble joke if he was, Ron could not see it at all. Shall we get in there? Said Ron, uncertainly looking at Harry as though worried about him. Yes, said Harry. You go on. It's all right, said dreamy voice from beside Harry as Ron vanished into the coach's dark interior. You're not going mad or anything. I can see them too. Can you? Said Harry desperately, turning to Luna. He could see that bedwicking horse reflecting in her white silvery eyes. Oh yes, said Luna. I have been able to see them ever since my first day here. They always pull the carriage. Don't worry. You are just as sane as I am, smiling faintly. She climbed into the musty interior of the carriage after Ron, not altogether reassured Harry, followed her. That's it for today. Thank you so much. Stay tuned for next chapter. See you. Bye bye.